Hello, today I'm going to demonstrate a couple of problems that require division because we see multiplication. So first, please make sure you have the paper that says one-step equation, integers. It will say multiplication and division, or mult/div, which means multiplication and division, level 1 S3. So make sure you have this paper, and the very first equation you should see would be 9W equals 81. This is a two-sided paper, so if you don't see this, please flip it over. Okay, so we're going to begin. And we begin by drawing what we call our wall. So we're going to put a wall down the equal. And then we look at the side where the variable is. I see the variable on this side. And then we decide what operation is being done with the variable. So I see that 9 is side by side with y. And we often talk about that side by side means multiply. So in order to solve, we have to do the opposite of what we call in math is the inverse of that. So we're going to divide. We're going to divide by the number 9. And whatever we do on one side of the equation, we have to do on the other side of the equation. And what happens is 9 divided by 9 is 1, and 1y is the y. We're trying to isolate the variable we saw. We want to know what that variable equals. 81 divided by 9 would give us back 9. So the solution is 9. If we'd like to check our work, we would go back to the original equation, which is 9 times y equals 81. We said that our solution is y equals 9, so we would replace y with our number 9, and then we would multiply it by the 9 that was already there. And if this indeed equals 81, which it does, 9 times 9 is 81, and that's the only number that would make this a true statement. I may have misspoken at the beginning of this video. This is both multiplication and division. What's important about this side is we're dealing with all positive numbers. So we're going to go on to number 3. Number 3 is written differently. In fact, if I look at the equation, I see c, and this fraction bar also means division, so this is c divided by 16. So on the side with the variable, we see that we're dividing, and so we're going to do the opposite of dividing, which is multiplying. I'm going to do the shortcut. I'm going to put 16 next to c, 16 times c, and I have to do the same thing on the other side. Technically, because the side with the variable, I do not have to write the parentheses. I could just write 16c. And what happens is 16 divided by 16, it gives us 1, and 1 times c. There's our variable isolated. On the other side, we get 1 times 16, which is 16, so our solution. If we wanted to check, we would start with the original equation. We would replace c with our number 16, our solution, right here. So I'm going to put 16 solution. The original problem says I divide it by 16, and that should give me 1, and that's a true statement. Let's do one more. Let's look at number 5. Sometimes they write equations in what you can refer to as backward. They have the variable on the right side instead of the left side. So if you're uncomfortable seeing this, you can just reverse it, and you could put the 11v on the left side, and you could put 77 on the right side. But I'd like you to be able to solve them regardless of the fashion that they gave them to you. So if I look at this, I always want to start on the side where the variable is. That's what tells me what to do. Since 11 is side by side with v, that means that it's multiplying. So in order to solve it, we need to do the inverse, also known as the opposite operation. So I'm going to divide by 11 on both sides. The solving step, both sides should always match. So 11 divided by 11 is 1, and there's our isolated v. That's what we want to do. And 77 divided by 11 is the number 7. So would you please pause, finish this side of the page, and then please go on to the next side. Okay, when you're ready to continue and you've turned to the back side of the paper, please make sure that it once again says one-step equations, integers, mult/div, and it's level 2 S3. You're going to notice this side we have negatives, but it does work with both division and with multiplication problems. You're also going to notice the added feature is we have negative numbers. So we have the negative integers as well as the positive integers. So right off the bat, this might look a little bit tricky. K divided by 7, but we also have this negative. And if we assign the negative to the variable, that's going to cost us another step of solving, so we don't necessarily want to do that. What we'd like to do is rewrite this now as K. We're going to move the negative with the 7, so the number is negative, not the variable, and that's still going to equal -4. When we're given a situation like this, we can move the negative with the numerator, the top number, or we can move it with the denominator, the bottom number, but both of them cannot be negative. In order for this to be a negative term, we can assign it to only one or the other. So now let's continue to solve. I'm going to build my wall. I'm going to look at the side that has the variable, and I notice that what's being done is we're dividing by -7. So we're going to do the opposite of dividing by -7. We're going to multiply by -7. And again, because it's a number next to a variable, I do not have to use parentheses. I could put it side by side, or I could go ahead and use parentheses if you'd rather. On the other side, I do have to use parentheses because it's a number next to number. So the -7 divided by -7 on this side cancels out, leaving our variable of k. And on the other side, we have a -4 times a -7. And if you remember our little Margar face, if she's all the way asleep, she's happy. So this is going to produce a +28. Again, if you have access to a calculator, you're welcome to use it. So now let's try one more. Number 2, you can see we have a negative integer in front of the x, and it's side by side, so that means that it's being multiplied. So we're going to do the opposite of multiplying. We're going to divide. And we have to divide by that -3. Once again, we want our variable to be positive. And if I had a -3 and I divide it by a -3, that's going to produce a +1. Positive 1x leaves a positive x. So on the other side, I have to do exactly the same thing. Again, if you don't have access to a calculator, if you have a +9 divided by a -3, we're going to get a negative answer. So that's -3 is also the answer. So you can go ahead and finish this paper, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Take care.